Hello everyone, my name's Shadow and welcome to my nest. I know I haven't posted anything in quite some time. It wasn't intention, I swear. A lot of stuff just happened, one after the other. I got sick 3 weeks on a row, and today's team also was tough to do with. Like, it was rough, really rough. But I managed, and that brings us to today's video. Well, if you read the title of the video and seen the thumbnail, then you probably know what this video is going to be about. Yes, today we're redesigning the Undertale characters. And you'd think it'd be easy since, I've done a lot of redesigns before. But unlike most of the characters I dealt with before, I know almost nothing about this guy. Like, almost zero. I don't know practically nothing about them. I am not an Undertale fan, and even though I've seen a gameplay of it years ago, I don't really remember much of it, just the major plot points and some things that got stuck on my mind because they're iconic. Metatome. But anyways, so I don't really remember a lot of it. And these designs are mostly based on the vibes I get from the characters and very little information about them, and I mean what I say when I say that it's very little information. And I'll probably get some stuff wrong along the way, but yeah, that's part of the process, I thought it would be a kind of fun project to do since, I usually don't stray away from my favorite topics to talk about. So I thought it would be a nice experiment to see what I could come up with. And I'm mostly happy with the designs I've come out with, but oh boy, were they rough to deal with. Okay, enough dilly-dallying. Let's get to the video, okay? Okay, so let's start with Undyne. Undyne was one of the few characters I had, a good memory about, and I knew what I was getting into. I know that she's a warrior, I think she's a ward, I think she's a Alice ward, now that I think about it. And I know that she's a great fighter, that she's very badass, and that she's a fish. And I kind of went off with the vibes. I also made this thesis on my style because I am not trying to emulate the Undertale's design. So yeah, that's pretty much redesign the characters. It's basically what I would do with them, if I was the one making their designs. But still, like I said, I don't know a lot about them, so I just kind of went off with the vibes I get from. And I really like Undyne's design. I've gotta say it, I don't dislike the original designs. I think they are very creative and very fun. I just mostly wanted to see what I could come up with if I, had kind of the same inspiration, let's say, for their designs. And I'm actually pretty happy with how Undyne turned out. I didn't draw any armor for her because armor is really difficult to deal with, and I was not on the mood to deal with that because, like I said, I was already struggling a lot to make these designs, even though they are quite simple, I think. And yeah, her design isn't very complex. I gave her some straps to her eye patch. I gave her more, scars and made her fins a little bit ripped because I thought it would, show us that she's a fighter a little bit better. I don't think you guys can see it very well, but I made her teeth she has a bit, I think it's called an underbite. She has a little bit of an underbite because I figured out she was inspired by a piranha, so I decided to go with it and give her a bit of a piranha teeth. So yeah, her teeth is very sharp. I wanted her to look like someone you don't want to fight. You know, if you come across her, you wouldn't want to fight her. And now that I'm seeing the time lapse again, she's kind of reminding me of Yondo, and I think that's kind of funny, but it's not a bad thing. I like Yondo a lot. And that's pretty much it for her design. It started very tame with her. I also gave her a little bit of some bandages around her hands, you know, to protect her fingers a little bit more while she's punching someone in the face. And that's it pretty much. I also tried to come up with a cool background, but I am awful at drawing backgrounds, so it didn't come out cool at all. But it's fine because she turned out alright, and I think that's enough. I wouldn't be bothered to try to do a better background because I don't really enjoy drawing backgrounds anyways. But yeah, her design is very fun, and like I said, it didn't change a lot to it because I already like her design a lot. I love some fishy characters, you know, that have some fish details to them. I love drawing them, so it was a very fun character to draw and a very fun experience. Okay, so now my favorite design of all. It's Metaton. I don't know. I just love this little guy. He's one of the characters I remember the most. He is so cool and he's such a diva. And I love him. I love his original design. I love every design of him. I love his personality. He's so extra. I don't know, he's everything. He's just everything. So I didn't change a lot for his design. I just kind of gave him an edgy accent to it because I don't know. I look at Metaton and the first thing that comes in my mind is scene fashion. You know, scene / emo. I don't know. So I went more in this direction to him. That's why you see I added the color green to his color scheme. And it matched the black and the pink quite well. I'm really happy with how his design turned out. He looks so cool, and I don't know, I'm just really proud of how this turned out. I also gave him a little, smaller details like some belts. I gave some details to his face. I made his eyes look. He only has one, look like a camera, and I also gave him some boots without heels. I don't know what these types of boots are called, but they are like platform boots, but they don't have heels, so they are very heavy at the front. And I don't know, I just saw one of these boots on Pinterest, and the first thing that came to my mind was Metaton, so of course I had to incorporate it into his design. Also, I struggled a lot with his color scheme because I didn't know exactly where to place the pink and the green in a way that looked fun and interesting but didn't look like too much, even though Metaton is kind of too much, but yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with how it turned out. I think the colors balance each other quite well. So yeah, that's pretty much it for his design. Also, if you watch the time lapse, you'll see that I started making kind of a very simple, very basic background for his design, because I hate drawing backgrounds, so yeah. But then I found a font that I just looked at, a letter font, and I just looked at it and I just thought, this is Metaton's font, and I kind of changed the whole background just so I could add his name in that specific font, because it's just so cute, it's extra and it's pixelated and it has stars inside, like it's Metaton's font, you can't convince me otherwise. And I just made it a very trippy and extra background, because Metaton is very extra and he deserves to have the most fun of it all. He deserves to have the coolest background, the coolest font. Yeah, you could say that all of my inspiration went to his design, because he was the one I cared about making the most, and I had a lot of fun with his design, and he was actually the first one I designed. So yeah, that made designing the others quite rough, because I felt like I picked at his design and nothing I did would get better. But it's okay, I don't think Metaton wants anyone to be better than him anyways. So I guess I did reach the vibes of the character in the end after all. Quick intermission to remind you guys to leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe if you enjoy my videos and want to see more from me. I am the one recording, drawing, and editing my videos, and when you put it with work and college life, it can be a lot. So your support is highly appreciated. Also, consider following my other socials. There's a link for them in the description down below. There's also a link to my Ko-fi page if you're interested in commissioning me or just supporting my channel. Now, my second favorite design, it was W.D. Gester. And I'll be honest, he's, of the characters I picked, he was one of the characters I knew about the least, because I don't think there's a lot of information about him in the games at all. And I just had to go with his design pretty much, but I think I managed to do quite a good job with it. And I don't know a lot about his character, but I don't know if I heard it or if it's a theory that I happened to come across. I don't really know. But I don't know, it came to my mind that he's a very dangerous guy that must be kept, locked away. So that's why I made him kind of stuck on a lot of chains and being kept away. I like to imagine he's being stored away under the castle for whatever reason. And I don't really know when I heard it or why, but I think he's a dimensional traveler or something like that. So I thought that would be a nice way to explain why he's being locked away. He has a lot of, dimensional traveling powers, but he has no control over them at all, so it leaves him quite unstable. And that's why his hands are crooks, that's why his face is half melted, I don't know, I just interpreted his lazy eye. I think that's what they are called, lazy eyes. I don't know. I kind of interpreted his original design as like a half melted face. And I thought it would make sense because in Undertale the monsters are actually made of whatever it is the material they are made from. Like, they don't just, like, let's say Grillby's, you know, he don't just look like fire. He is actually fire. You know, you get what I'm saying? So I imagine Gaster being somewhat like, I don't know, plasticky material. Like, I actually imagine him as kind of a ghost. His body is more of a ghost. That's why I made him with a more smoky bottom, letting out a little bit of smoky wisps, you know, because that's how I particularly see him. But his face is actually made of plastic. I don't know why. I think it was kind of inspired by the puppet from FNAF, because let's be honest, that guy and the puppet have some, you know, design similarities, and I think I just kind of projected the puppet onto him somewhat, and that's why I made him a creepy ghost. But I'm happy with how it turned out. I also made his neck a little bit, you know, crooked. I wanted him to look very, you know, monstrous and weird, and that's why I made his proportions very lanky and messy, and I made his fingers very sharp and long because, I don't know, I just particularly find it very... I find monsters who have more skeletal appearance a little bit more scary than monsters who are more, you know, I find thin monsters scarier than big monsters, let's say. And I wanted him to also give sort of a Slenderman vibe. I don't know if I reached that, but I'm pretty happy with how his design turned out anyways. He's just a silly little guy. He's just a silly little guy with a silly little half-melted face, with silly little locked-away hands, and who has some powers that he himself doesn't understand, and who can blame him for that? So yeah, for his render, I made his handcuffs a little bit rusty and his chains a little bit rusty too, because I wanted to pass the impression that he's locked away for a long time. Like, this guy is old, boys. This guy is very old. And that's pretty much it for him. I just wanted to make a creepy boy, and I think I managed quite well to make a creepy boy. Now, last but not least, Photoshop Flowey. This was the character I drifted away from the original design the most, because I think he's the only one I actually did a very deep redesign with, because let's be honest, I will never be able to do anything as creepy and as uncomfortable looking as the original design. Like, this is peak horror design. That thing is awful. That thing, the original design for Photoshop Flowey is so gross, is so disgusting, and I think it's perfect. I look at that thing and I want to run away and throw up. He's so ugly that if it was a bug-sized thing on the street, I would immediately try to kill it with fire. And I am the kind of person who used to hold worms on her bare hands when I was a little kid. So that's saying a lot coming from me, you know? I am not grossed out by bugs at all. But if that thing was a bug in the real world, I would absolutely try to destroy its entire species, because it's horrible, it's awful, and it's such a perfect design because of that. And I knew, and I was completely convinced that I wouldn't be able to do anything better than the original design for this character. So I didn't. I didn't try to do anything better. I just tried to, give it a little bit of my charm to it. And I made it significantly less gross on the process, which is sad, but I don't know how to properly render realistic stuff because it's not my art style and it's something I need to learn. I think it would be very nice to know how realistic shading and stuff works. But yeah, let's get into my design, please. Let's stop talking about how effective the original design is. Yeah, for this design, I decided to go with a more centipede theme, kinda. I was heavily inspired by Sin, the Absolute Solver from Murdered Drones, and it was such a cool thing to work with because it's been so long since I've actually engaged with anything Murdered Drones related because, it's been a long time, and it actually was the theme of my first video on this channel, so it was very fun to work with it. But yeah, I also gave it a little bit those, I don't know what they're called, but those claws, those meaty claws he has around his face, let's say the television face he has. And I decided to keep it because it was already very disgusting and gross, and I thought it would be nice to make it a gross centipede who has those kind of stuff, because centipedes already have very, disgusting, they are not called fangs, but I'm gonna call them fangs anyway because I don't know what the word in English for those things are, but it has those fangs and it's very painful if you get bit by one of them. So I decided to make them meaty and I gave them eyes because you can never have too much eyes. And yeah, I also tried to make it look so much gross, but I don't think I managed because, like I said, my render style is not very realistic, and I think what gives the grossness to the original design is how realistic it is. But yeah, I tried to make it as weird and creepy and crawly as possible, and I like to imagine that this thing actually is like very much like the Absolute Solver. It just claws around walls and walks around he's creeping creepily, but I like how this design turned out. He's such a weird guy, and he's not more effective than the original design, but it's okay. I can accept it. He's just a weird little guy, and I love him for that. He's disgusting. So, well, that's it for this video. And like I said in the beginning, I don't really know anything about Undertale. So if I got something wrong, pretend you didn't see it. It was pretty much expected, so it doesn't count. But yeah, this video was very interesting to make. I don't usually draw anything outside of my interests, and it can become a problem sometimes because I struggle a lot when I have to do something that has nothing to do with my particular interests. So it was a fun experiment. I don't think I will do anything related to this again, at least not very soon, because like I said, it was a very rough and stressful project, and it got delayed a lot. Like, I think it was supposed to come out 2 months ago, if not 3 months ago, but it's okay. It's very funny actually because it happened to come out in the same month or close to the time where Deltarune came out. Does it say Deltarune? I'm sorry, I don't know how you people who speak English pronounce that word. I'm Brazilian, so for me it's Deltarune. I have no business trying to Americanize myself. But anyways, let's get to the end of this video because I think I'm already going crazy. And yeah, maybe someday I'll get brave enough and do something, you know, similar to this again. Maybe I'll even do a Deltarune character video, even though I know even less about Deltarune than I know about Undertale. But yeah, it's for the funsies. I am not promising anything though. Don't expect me to do it. Don't ask for it because I'm not promising anything. But yeah, that's it for today. I think I have already spoken a lot and I think I went on a bit of a tangent right now. But yeah, this video was actually a gift. It isn't actually, you know, one of my ideas. I made this video for someone, one of my friends actually, who is very passionate about Undertale and who loves Undertale a lot, and we talk a lot about Undertale together. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you liked the designs. I hope I haven't butchered your favorite characters in any way, shape or form. So yeah, anyway, I wish you all a great day, night, afternoon, whatever time is it. Thank you for spending this time here with me in my nest, and I'll see you in the next one. And let's hope this one gets out a lot sooner than this one did, you know? Let's hope it takes a little bit less time than this one did. Because this one was a roller coaster of emotion and it was a doozy. So yeah, thank you for spending this time here with me on my nest, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye!